Imagine paying for the ultimate luxury vacation, only to find yourself trapped inside a floating biological nightmare. Right now, a colossal cruise ship drifts aimlessly in the dark ocean, isolated from the rest of the world. It is not sinking, and it has not been hijacked by pirates. It has been taken over by an invisible, microscopic assassin. The Hantavirus. What began as a dream holiday has rapidly mutated into a terrifying, locked-room mystery. How did a virus, known to be carried only by wild rodents, suddenly infect a sterile, billion-dollar luxury vessel in the middle of the sea? To understand the sheer terror of this situation, you must understand the nature of the beast. The Hantavirus is not like a common cold or a standard flu. It is a severe, unforgiving pathogen. When inhaled, it attacks the lungs with ruthless aggression, causing them to fill with fluid. The fatality rate is shockingly high, sometimes reaching up to 38%. And the most terrifying part? There is no vaccine. There is no cure. Treatment is merely keeping the patient breathing and hoping their body survives the war. But the true mystery that has scientists and authorities in a state of absolute panic is the transmission. Hantavirus does not typically spread from human to human. It is spread through the droppings, urine, or saliva of infected rodents. When these dry out, the toxic particles become airborne. This means that somewhere deep within the steel bowels of this immaculate, glittering cruise ship, an army of infected shadows is moving through the ventilation shafts. But cruise ships are heavily inspected fortresses of hygiene. So, how did a colony of infected rodents breach the hull? Some investigators point to the ship's cargo hold. Before setting sail, the ship took on supplies from various international ports. Could a contaminated shipping container, perhaps carrying illegal or uninspected goods from a deep jungle port, have been loaded aboard? Or is there a darker explanation? Some whistleblowers suggest the ship was transporting a classified biological sample for a private research firm, and the containment was breached. Whatever the truth is, the result is the same. Over 3,000 passengers are now locked in their cabins, breathing recycled air, wondering if the next breath will be their last. But to truly grasp the horror unfolding on this floating palace, we must look back at the dark, bloody history of the Hantavirus itself. This is not a new enemy. It is an ancient assassin that has been hiding in the shadows of human civilization for centuries. Its earliest recorded devastation dates back to the mysterious sweating sickness that ravaged England in the 15th century, killing thousands in a matter of hours. Even then, the invisible killer struck without warning, turning healthy individuals into breathless corpses overnight. Fast forward to the Korean War in the 1950s. Over 3,000 United Nations soldiers suddenly fell violently ill with hemorrhagic fever. They bled from their eyes, their kidneys failed, and panic spread through the ranks faster than any bullet. It took decades of relentless medical research to finally isolate the culprit in 1978, near the Hantan River in South Korea. The river gave the virus its name, but it did not contain its wrath. It proved that this pathogen thrives in chaos, in tight quarters, and in the disruption of nature. And that brings us to a terrifying modern theory. The Hantavirus is a zoonotic disease, meaning it jumps from animals to humans. But what if the strain currently hunting the passengers on this cruise ship is not entirely natural? In the dark web of virology and biological warfare, Hantavirus has long been studied as a potential weapon of mass destruction. Its ability to aerosolize, to float invisibly in the air, makes it the perfect silent killer. If a government or a rogue organization wanted to test a genetically modified, highly transmissible strain of the virus, what better testing ground than an isolated cruise ship surrounded by thousands of miles of deep ocean, with no escape for its inhabitants? The passengers on board are completely unaware of these dark theories. For them, the horror is purely physical and immediate. The ship's captain, following strict international maritime quarantine protocols, has shut down the main engines. The vessel is now operating on auxiliary power. The once glimmering crystal chandeliers are dark. The grand theaters are empty. The luxurious buffets are rotting in the heat. The air conditioning system, the very lungs of the ship, has been disabled to prevent the toxic aerosolized particles from spreading further. The ship is slowly baking in the ocean sun, turning the sealed cabins into suffocating metal ovens. As the temperature inside the ship rises, so does the psychological terror. Days turn into a blur of suffocating heat and deafening silence. The luxury suites have become solitary confinement cells. But human nature is predictable. When deprived of answers, food, and breathable air, order collapses. Passengers begin communicating by knocking on the thin metal walls, a desperate Morse code of survival. Soon, whispers spread through the ship's internal network that the authorities have no intention of rescuing them. They believe the ship is a sacrificial lamb, kept at sea to protect the mainland. And they might be right. Satellite imagery confirms that a blockade of heavily armed naval warships has quietly surrounded the cruise ship from a 5-mile radius. They are not flying rescue flags. They are flying quarantine enforcement colors. Their orders are absolute. No one leaves the vessel. Any small lifeboats attempting to deploy are met with immediate, lethal warning shots across the bow. The message from the outside world is brutally clear. You are on your own. Inside the ship, the situation deteriorates into absolute chaos. The medical bay, equipped for minor injuries and seasickness, is completely overrun. The ship's doctor, exhausted and out of supplies, watches helplessly as patients drown in their own fluids. The symptoms of this mutated hantavirus strain are accelerating at an impossible rate. Standard hantavirus takes weeks to incubate. This strain is bringing passengers to their knees in a matter of days. This accelerated mutation is the smoking gun that has bioweapon experts around the globe sweating in their underground bunkers. To make matters worse, a mutiny is brewing in the lower decks. The ship's crew, who live in cramped, poorly ventilated quarters at the bottom of the hull, are taking the heaviest casualties. Desperation drives a group of crew members to break protocol. Armed with fire axes and makeshift tools, they breach the sealed upper decks, demanding access to the remaining fresh water and emergency medical supplies. The once glittering promenade of the luxury liner becomes a battleground. The wealthy elite and the desperate crew clash in the dark. Slipping on marble floors, that are now covered in sweat and debris. As the violence tears the ship apart from the inside, the military command outside reaches a chilling consensus. The risk of the mutated Hantavirus reaching the mainland is deemed an unacceptable global threat. The ship is no longer considered a civilian vessel. It has been reclassified as a biological hazard zone of the highest order. The countdown on the naval tactical screens isn't for a rescue operation. It is for a cleanse. Suddenly, the roar of military transport helicopters shatters the night. But they are not dropping supplies. Specialized containment teams, dressed in black, heavy-duty hazmat armor, fast rope onto the top deck. They are not carrying medical kits. They are carrying incendiary weapons and heavy containment foam. Their objective is not to save lives, but to eradicate the virus at the source. The remaining passengers, mistaking the soldiers for saviors, rush towards them, only to be met with blinding floodlights and absolute, ruthless force. Meanwhile, deep in the darkest corners of the ship's cargo hold, the true nightmare quietly continues. Undisturbed by the gunfire and chaos above, the infected rodents are multiplying, chewing through the ship's lower bulkheads. The virus is adapting, surviving the heat, and waiting. If even one infected rat manages to swim to the nearby mainland, or if the military's drastic cleanse fails to destroy every microscopic cell, the lockdown of 2020 will look like a mild rehearsal compared to what is coming.
We have tragic news.
The official news reports will claim the ship suffered a tragic mechanical failure. The truth will be buried at the bottom of the ocean, classified forever. But the question remains, was this a terrible accident of nature, or a calculated experiment that went horribly right? If you were trapped on that ship, what would you do? Would you fight the crew, try to escape the naval blockade, or hide and wait for the end? Let me know your survival plan in the comments. And if you want to uncover more terrifying truths that the world is trying to hide, hit that subscribe button to enter the Vexar Vault.